Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Late Night Football. Welcome to another edition, and of course, what can I say? It's a developing story that we've been watching, and things have been happening, and we're here to talk about it. We're here to talk about Chelsea, we can't talk about Chelsea without having Nishikant on the show. So, Nishikant, welcome once again. It's been a while since we had you, and yeah, I'm sure
Yes.
a lot of
Yeah,
people missed you. It's good to have you back.
good to be back. I wish I could have been back under better circumstances, but we'll make do with what we have.
Absolutely, yeah. We wish to as well, but that's life is like a box of chocolates, as Tom Hanks said. And on that note, we'll talk about Chelsea. So just a quick recap for people about the situation. So at the moment, the sanctions that are happening with Chelsea, they're kind of like it's a kind of a rolling storm thing. We spoke about this actually last week, where we were talking about Roman Abramovich wanting to get rid of Chelsea. Wanting to get out of the club, so to speak, just to be able to protect the club and to be able to protect his assets. That's it's taken a while, and what has happened now is that the UK government has also sanctioned Roman Abramovich personally, as well as Chelsea. And so the way that things are right now, it's a sad situation with regards to where Chelsea are at. And for those of you who don't know the details, I mean, you can obviously look them up online. We won't be able to cover everything today, but I think some of the key points, Nishi, is of course the fact that there won't be any transfers until this is resolved, and there won't be any contract negotiations until this is resolved, as well as ticket sales will not happen. But I think that's something that the fans will probably try and work that deal out with the UK government. We'll talk about the takeover as well, but let's start with these pressing concerns. How do you think that's going to affect the playing staff? Because obviously not having contract negotiations currently with what the club is at. What do you think the impact would be for that?
Well, the immediate impact would be definitely Azpilicueta, Rudiger, and Christensen leaving. Right, all three of them are free agents, and if we can't offer them a contract, there's no reason for them to stay. Right? So obviously, we are going to lose out on these three, especially Rudiger, who I think has been our best defender, ever since Thomas Tuchel arrived. So that's a big loss. Not too bothered about Christensen. I think we were all prepared for him to leave, so it wouldn't have mattered either way. Azpilicueta as well, great loss in terms of character and leadership, but it was kind of coming. He was old, and we now have Reece James, who's kind of the primary right back or right wing back. So that's definitely the immediate loss in terms of the players whose contracts are expiring. Apart from that, obviously the other problem is players who have had maybe who were promised a better contract, a better deal, might feel disgruntled, or might feel let down because now we cannot offer them the pay rise or whatever the new deal was offered. So it's definitely a very, very tough time, not just because of the contract situations. I'm hearing reports that we have had to lay off staff as well. So even at a human level, right? These staff who work day in, day out to make sure the pitches are fine, people get food in the stadiums, and those people whose work is not recognized in the media but are pretty important behind the scenes. Them getting laid off. I mean, Chelsea did not lay off a single staff during entire COVID, but the UK government has definitely forced a British club to fire British citizens with this decision. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. A pretty tough time for Chelsea as a club. They're kind of struggling to survive right now. So I think, players, you could probably replace them with whatever we have in academy. And I think we have a good academy, thankfully, who can actually pitch in. But I think the aftermath of this would have a ripple effect all over Chelsea. And, some replacements probably we won't be able to make.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, Lukaku won't be able to get his Inter Milan move. He'll probably have to stay another year. We can always joke about that.
Fortunately.
But I mean, it is a sad situation. Actually, you made a very good point, and I will come back to that towards the end because there's some discussion there as well to be had. But yes, it is sad. I mean, especially with Chelsea. But then you've got a few players who could step up, as you said. I mean, there's Malang Sarr, there's Chalobah, so you've got replacements there. probably they might regret now selling Fikayo Tomori, not having a buyback clause, or but even if they had a buyback clause, it wouldn't matter at this point. But probably selling him might be a regret. But that's on the playing side, obviously. The other bigger issue is the sponsors are pulling out as well. We've heard that 3 want to pull out. Sort of jokes about that, but they're probably pulling out. There's some others as well that are Nike is considering as well. Not keeping its sponsorship deal. Is it? I mean, I was wondering. I asked Siddhant this question. The short term, it's going to be a problem for Chelsea. The short to medium term, I thought it would be fine, but actually things might get worse in the short to medium term more than the long term.
Yeah, I mean, the short-term effect could be, I mean, assuming that, the government allows a special dispensation and we are able to sell the club and we get a new owner who would have a lot of work on his hands, by the way, given the situation at Chelsea right now. So yeah, things could stabilize in long run. Too early to kind of make that kind of comment right now. We don't know how things would be, what the government would decide. There's a lot of PR thing as well involved in decisions that governments have been making, in at the under the pretext of this war and sanctioning Russia and Russians for that matter. But yeah, so it's too early to say whether long term would be better or worse, but definitely there is a lot of short term impact. There's I mean, Chelsea are cash strapped right now. You have limitations on what you can spend on a match day and on travel and on, other things. So there's definitely a huge financial crisis right now. So that will definitely have a very bad impact in short term and mid term. So yeah, but I can't really say at the moment if things would be better or worse in the long term. We'll have to see how this pans out and what are the rules, what relaxations are made. I think club has been talking to the government for relaxation in rules, some of the licenses that and sanctions. So let's see how it pans out.
Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, it's a sad situation that's happened to Chelsea, and it's happened. Let's talk about the takeover thing as well, because at the end of the day, all this is happening to Chelsea because of the owner, right? If the owner's name was, instead of Roman Abramovich, it was something like Roman Abrams or someone like that, who was British, they wouldn't, nobody would care, right? But I mean, let's talk about the takeover as well. I mean, there's a takeover thing right now, as far as I'm concerned, and Nishikant, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But it's basically that right now, Chelsea can be sold. That's not a problem, but Roman cannot directly benefit from any proceeds from that sale. So basically, whatever the amount Chelsea is sold for, Roman is not going to get any money. That's the UK government thing. So I mean, the question is, if Chelsea have to be sold, then Roman has to go to the UK government, and the UK government will sort of oversee the whole bidding process. They do have some buyers lined up. There's people from all around the world that are, of course, interested in Chelsea, as any Premier League club would attract that interest. I mean, let's talk about this from a perspective of an owner. What would Roman's mindset be thinking? Because he's putting money in this club. Obviously, he said he's going to waive off the loans and all of that. That's fair. But the fact is, he's put in money, and now he can't even sell the club, on his own account. Now, keeping aside, we know what Roman's connections are to Putin, and that's totally, or the Russian government, I should say, totally different on that front. But still, as an owner, what's the incentive for Roman to say, you know what, I got to sell this, but I'm not really getting anything from it?
So I don't think a lot changes in that sense, with respect to Roman Abramovich. Not much changes because he had waived off loans anyway. And he had already announced that whatever the net proceeds will be from the sale would go towards the Ukrainian victim.
Actually, he said they might not all go to Ukraine. He later clarified that statement, saying not all good might go to Ukraine. So yeah, there's always that gray area, right? But anyway, yeah.
Could be. Yeah. Maybe some part of it would have gone. The thing is, now I'm thinking, if from a businessman perspective, obviously it's a tough situation for Roman, right? Not just for Chelsea. He has other assets probably not as valuable as Chelsea, but a lot of assets in United Kingdom, and the same rule applies for all of those. So from a businessman perspective, this is definitely a loss for him. And I don't know what I can't really I haven't been lucky enough to have assets as valuable as what Roman has. So
Me neither. This is rich people problems,
so,
right? Yeah,
it's a rich people problem. So I can't really say what the mindset would be, because he already has a lot of cash. So whatever they have sanctioned, maybe a few billion that he has in United Kingdom. He has quite a few other
frozen
billions.
assets. Yeah, they're frozen all of that.
Frozen assets, and quite a few billions in different countries where he hasn't been sanctioned. So personally, I don't think it affects him as much as it affects the employees of and people who are involved with those assets, not being the owner, being employees and being caretakers and things like that, who are probably more affected than Roman Abramovich himself. The other thing is, let's say we get that special dispensation, and what you said, that Chelsea can sell so long as UK government oversees it. That's something which is being floated around in the media. Probably true, but it's not something UK government has agreed to yet. So it is one way, which is being kind of floated around the media. The government could agree, provided that Roman does not get a single penny from the proceedings of the sale. So, but where would that money go? At least some part of it was going to go to the Ukrainian victims. Where does it go now? Does it go to the coffers of UK MPs and whatever their political system is? Who gets the money? What happens to that money? Does the money get? Yeah. So
yeah,
we don't
that's
know
a good question. Actually, we haven't even thought
Yeah.
about that. I don't know if anybody's thought about that. That's a very good question. See, we always hit the hard-hitting questions here. Last week we had a good one, and this week again we've got a good point. I mean, where does that money go actually? Because
where does that money go?
does it go in a trust fund that Roman can take in once the sanctions are lifted? Maybe he can take it back. Is that what's going to happen, or is the UK government just going to give it to the sports ministry and then they can, or does it go to the Premier League? Nobody knows where that money is going to go.
No one knows. Yeah, I mean, the best thing would be it gets reinvested back in the club, or if not in the club, at least in the Premier League. That would be at least from a UK government perspective, because, or even better would be if UK government sends it to victims of probably Ukraine and other wars that have been neglected in the media and haven't really been no one has been sanctioned because they have Russia. It isn't Russia who's attacking those countries. So maybe
well, I mean, that's a more geopolitical thing. I'm sure there's a very interesting conversation to have there as well, but maybe
where does the money go?
But so, I mean, that's a good point. I wonder, you could use it for a lot of things for that money. There's a lot of good that money could do. The question is the will to do the good stuff.
And another thing is, now who decides the price? So if Roman does this, oversees the sale, and Chelsea oversee the sale, then Chelsea decide the price. If UK government is doing the sale, who decides the price? How does that negotiation happen? What are the, if there are any hidden clauses in this kind of special dispensation, as they call it. So we don't really know what would happen. I think there is a good chance that, because it's a British club, and it's an important club in the country. So there's a good chance that government might agree that, okay, fine, you could sell it. So we'll get to know more. I mean, things are, I mean, I don't think that.
Well, I guess they could set up a trust group that could oversee the sale of the club itself. When the money goes is another question. But I guess
I mean, whenever trusts are involved, they are so complicated that you never know where the money went.
That's
so that trust. This trust thing has been a long proven way of laundering money. So
do you trust the trust? That's the question.
Do you trust the trust?
You can't spell trust without trust. But anyway,
that's definitely. But the thing is, the situation is so volatile right now that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right now, I think there's no better time to live in the moment. Thomas Tuchel said, I think after the last game, there's no better time to be in the moment than right now, because you simply cannot say what's going to happen tomorrow. So I guess that's where we are at, and all of us Chelsea fans. I think, I don't know how much Roman Abramovich. I mean, from what I know, what we have seen him for the last 20 years, he's just as big a fan of Chelsea as anyone. So I'm sure he's hurt at some level, but I think the problem is more for the fans and for the staff and for the level 1, level 2, level 3 employees than anyone else, right? Because even players, even if they don't get a hike in, let's say, next 6 months, these are already millionaires, right? They would get hike whenever new owners arrive. But fans are still yet to see who the new owners would be, what would be their agenda. How we have a good owner can take your club to places, and a bad owner can make your club Arsenal. So
I can make you Man United as well. That's
yeah. So
yeah. Well, bad owners can also take your club places, just not the places you want to go. Anyway, no, that's a good point. I mean, let's talk about the takeover stuff as well, because I mean, the next owners obviously is going to be important for Chelsea in terms of who it's going to be. There's a lot of names around. A lot of them are Americans, as expected, because why not? These kind of things, these kind of opportunities don't come around too often. Where you can sign you can have a bona fide top 4 Premier League team. You can own one of those, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm sure American owners will want to jump on it. There's a lot of names around that have been thrown out. I'm not going to go through the speculative names and all of that, but there was one name that stood out, and that was the owner of the Jets, which is an NFL team in of course in the US, and apparently they're interested in Chelsea. And the Jets have, if you are an NFL fan, I didn't know this, so I read in the article, if you're an NFL fan, they have not won the Super Bowl in 50 years or something, and they've never, and since I think for 20 years they haven't even made the playoffs for a long time. So there's something to be careful about. It's just I mean, obviously Americans will be interested because Britain would not mind American owners right now. I think that the situation that it is. Do you feel that the change of ownership might also bring a change in the attitude of how Chelsea used to operate, because that they'll lose that bit of edge, that ruthlessness that they had? Do you think the new owners, do you think that should be a priority as well, to find owners that have that ruthlessness? Or do you think at this point it will be, well, whoever takes it, because we need to stabilize the club first?
Yeah, I think that should be the priority that should be the only priority of the Chelsea board right now, to find an owner. I'm not a big fan of Americans in English football, because they simply do not understand the game. They'll probably be laundering money from here to their, whatever NFL or NBA, whatever other ownership that they have, right? So, and we have history of that with Manchester United, with Liverpool. Both have Americans owner. Neither of the fans are happy with their owners. So American owners are probably the worst thing, but the safest thing, because it doesn't matter whom America attacks, their owners are not. United States isn't going to be sanctioned, neither would be American citizens. So it's the safest thing for sure, to have an American owner. But I would rather have, if it comes to that, then why not have a British? I heard, I forgot the name of this person now, but a couple of British
the Reuben family.
Yeah, no, there's one guy. He is a Chelsea fan. He has been a childhood Chelsea fan. I think he's into real estate. I can't really recall his name right now.
Yeah, it's
very
many names. Yeah,
he's open to partner with some sort of consortium and make a bid for Chelsea. So probably having someone like that. But definitely the biggest priority right now is to have an owner with a clear idea of how he or she would take Chelsea forward. The identity of the club is throughout the Roman era has been associated with winning, right? It doesn't matter whether we change manager twice a season or twice every year, or once in 2 years. It doesn't matter, but the success has been constant, that you all Chelsea have been winning. So that's something that has been associated with the clubs. That's what fans are used to, and that's what fans demand. So that shouldn't change. That attitude has to be there, that winning above everything else. right? And that is the way to make clubs successful. All the success that came to Chelsea is because of the fact that they continued to win. They won European trophies, domestic trophies, and that's why Chelsea were successful. That's why we got all the sponsors, and so everything that came along with it. It comes because a club wins. So that has to be the priority, in my opinion, to not change the, not destroy the soul of Chelsea that has been built around winning. So that's definitely need to be taken care of. And it is the responsibility of Chelsea board, Bruce Buck and his colleagues, Marina, these people.
Is Marina still going to be there? I heard that Marina is going to resign as well.
No, that was there was a post going around with Marina saying that Matt Law already discredited it at that time, and this is before the sanctions happened. Some of the parties interested in buying Chelsea were also interested in that Marina should stay, because she is a very important person at Chelsea. She's a very important person in football in general, very talented, very strong director of football. So I would personally want her to stay, regardless of
Of
whether
course you would. Of course you would. Yeah, it's an inside joke, of course. Yeah, no, but no, I understand, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think Chelsea should try to retain the structure as much as they can. Whoever the owners are, if they can keep the structure, that's of course going to be critical for Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, it's scary times ahead for Chelsea and for Chelsea fans, and we'll hope that this gets resolved quickly. Because the last thing that anybody wants is for Chelsea to become another Leeds situation, to have another Leeds situation on our hands where they quickly fall down. Nobody wants that. But I mean, Nishikant, again, I spoke about this. I mean, we kind of touched on this last week, and it was kind of it was interesting revelation because we talked about this a lot. So again, I bring this conversation back: fan ownership in football. To avoid this kind of situation. I mean, again, there was a bit of a line there. I saw there was, I think, a sort of a press release or something that came out from the Chelsea supporters, the FSA. And I think one of the things that they spoke about was, again, we want to have this fan ownership model, we support it. And we keep talking about this fan review, fan ownership. Nothing's been done. It's been a year now, almost, since the Super League thing came about. And still nothing has been done. How important and how critical, again, do you think that this topic should be, again, on top of people's minds of having fan ownership?
I
mean, I guess the first question is, do you
even think that romanticized idea, fan ownership, right? You're a fan, you own the club, you control the club, you have the decision-making power. Sounds really good, but it depends how practical it is. At a club like Chelsea, right? And how things would work out. I really do not know the details. Barcelona has this fan ownership kind of thing.
Bayern have it as well. It's all German clubs have it. I think the way that it works.
But eventually, it's still one person that runs, right? You have an election, or however you choose the president or something like that, So it still boils down to the fact that, who gets voted in. And votes often, when people vote, they are often not very objective, but more emotional when they are voting.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify, Barcelona is a bit of a different model because it is a club membership. So the club members, they vote for the president, whoever they want. So it's not always fans. It's basically the members who do that. Obviously, fans, you have to be a member of a club to be able to do that. But the way it works is that there's an election and they do that. With Bayern, I believe it's more of a model where there is a sort of, obviously Bayern has a 50+1 ownership model. So where club members do, I'm not sure if they're elected. I think the president gets elected, but then they appoint people. But the way that Bayern have done it is that they basically had everyone in-house. So you have people right from the top to in the executive level, right from the top to bottom. It's people who played for the club, who have some kind of affiliation with the club rather than outsiders. They don't generally bring in outsiders. So that's the way it works in Germany. Of course,
but the thing is, these clubs have been fan-owned for a while, and they've had the time to establish themselves. Right now, in Premier League, when there are billionaire owners spending millions and hundreds of millions on players, a fan-owned club might not be able to compete at that level. Bayern Munich cannot compete with Manchester City when it comes to the money power, right? They are able to get they have a great recruitment system, and they find players, pretty cheap, pretty young, and they develop them really well. And they have that clout in Bundesliga, wherein they can get the next best thing from, Dortmund or Schalke or wherever, right? Everyone wants to join Bayern. But if Bayern comes and starts playing in Premier League, I do not think that they would be able to persuade a Ruben Diaz to leave Manchester City and come play for Bayern Munich, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, their model wouldn't. Yeah, well, their model wouldn't be to persuade a Ruben Diaz. Their model would be to persuade probably a Harry Maguire or a Declan Rice to come to, because they were playing in England. Assuming Bayern are an English club, they would do that. That's what they would do. But the question, of course, well, they wanted Harry Maguire. I wouldn't need to be persuaded. I would be like, yeah, go ahead, take him, please. But I am understanding.
So, but I get what you're saying. Like young English talents, since like how they do young
German talents,
German talents. But obviously, they also got the likes of Lewandowski. Right? They took him off, PVP. Yeah, Dortmund's thing. So so I don't know if that would really work at this point in time. If clubs have already built that kind of structure and they have been there for long, so it's a very sounds really romantic, this idea of fan ownership. I do not know in this commercialized world of football how realistic it is. I also am not very familiar with the intricacies of how this whole fan ownership thing.
It won't work. Am I right off the bat? It won't work if one club does it. It's not going to work, because immediately it's not going to work. Like all 20 clubs have to agree to it, and they all have to do it, because that's the only
20 clubs hardly ever agree on it.
Yeah, and or you need a 2/3 vote or whatever. But I mean, you need all 20 clubs to agree that yes, we're going to move to a fan ownership model, because otherwise
2/3 people club haven't been able to agree on the fact that we should have 5 substitution instead of 3.
Exactly.
Entire Europe has 5 substitutions, so I don't see this happening.
But in an ideal world, that's what would need to happen, is that all 20 clubs would need to agree that yes, we all.
In an ideal world, there would be no war, and Roman Abramovich would still be Chelsea owners.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fine, but the reality is that that's how it would have to work, is all 20 clubs have to agree to it. The problem with that is, well, I mean, for owners that have put in a lot of money, obviously, have held all these shares, they're going to have to give up 49% of their shares or whatever. 50%, 50 plus 1% of the shares up to fans. And do clubs want to do that? I mean, what owner would want to do that? Probably none, right? No, and I wouldn't. If I was an owner, I probably would be upset about it too. Leaving aside the morality and the ideality of the situation, that's just the way it is. But that's something. But the question really is about, do clubs need it? And I feel clubs need it. I think somewhere, I mean, the government has got to step in here, and probably they do need it, because at the end of the day, this could happen to any club. It could happen to City, it could happen to United, it could happen to any club, really. And what really happens is, well, Abramovich's going to be fine. He's got a lot of billions already stashed up. He's going to make a few more before his time. So he's going to do that. He's going to be fine. The players are going to be fine. They're not going to, if Chelsea don't pay them the money, somebody else will. So they'll just move on and go ahead, right? It's the fans that suffer at the end of the day, right? We are the ones who are invested in our clubs. We're the ones who go to see the matches, whether we watch them online, whether we watch them, we stay up late at night to watch them. We get up early in the mornings to watch them, depending on where we live, or we go to the stadiums, obviously, to watch them. So it's the fans ultimately that suffer. And I feel that clubs are more than just, companies. There are communities that are built around clubs as well. And so I do believe that a fan ownership model is needed. The question is, and it's just for the fans, right? It's really about protecting the fans and helping the fans, really. But again, and like you said, it's a romantic idea. In an ideal world, we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a we live in a cruel world. And in a cruel world, does the government have the appetite to do it, and do the owners have the will to actually agree to that? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, really.
That's a rhetorical question, and I think it should more be driven by fans and owners. I really don't like when governments get involved in things that government's involvements do not really go right, because they have their own, one party will say this thing, another one is going to oppose it for the sake of opposing it because they are in opposition. So that's just and eventually this will become a political agenda, and then there will be a lot of politics around it, vote bank politics and whatnot. So I would say that government should stay away from football and focus on administration and whatever else that they are supposed to do. And this is something probably that fans and Premier League should,
Oh
discuss
yeah, the
along
FA, the
with the
Premier League,
owners. Yeah,
the
FA and
FL
Premier League.
probably.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's just hard, isn't it? I mean, we're not going to go too much into this discussion because I mean, this is a never-ending discussion. We could talk about it
Yeah.
for 2-3 hours.
Yeah,
Right?
we are making assumptions over assumptions when we discuss that.
It's the difficulty again. It's the same with fans as well. Fans are not homogenous, right? All fans don't think the same. Even like not all United fans think like I think. Not all Chelsea fans think like Nishikant thinks. So how many fans can you get on your side? How many fans? I mean, there's divides between fans as well. A lot of club fans, a lot of British fans, a lot of British Chelsea fans don't necessarily consider overseas fans as Chelsea fans. A lot of British United fans don't consider, someone like me. They're probably like, well, that's a glory hunter. He's not a real United fan. We don't want him involved, right? So there's all sorts of disconnects, right, within fan bases as well. And I said this as well. If it's going to be a fan ownership, it's got to be an inclusive ownership. It's got to be fans that are represented, not just from England, not just from Manchester, but also, if I'm just saying for Manchester United, for example, not just from England, not just from Manchester, but you want to include people from Asia, from North America, South America, wherever, because you're selling stuff to us. We buy your stuff. We watch.
And if you boast to have the biggest fan base in the world, then you cannot simply just ask fans in Manchester.
Yeah, or same with Chelsea as well. You can't just ask fans.
Same thing. Yeah, applies to any club. If you pretend or call yourself having global support, then if there is a decision that requires fans involvement, then it has to be global as well. It cannot be a local thing.
And that unfortunately is not always the case. So anyway, we'll stop here. I think we've kind of got a little bit sidetracked, but it's always an interesting discussion to have about fan ownership, because I think it's something that we have to make sure that we keep on top of mind, since we spoke about it so much last year, and then we kind of lose that conversation. So it's good to keep that. But Nishikant, there's some big games coming out this week. Obviously, Chelsea will be in action as well. What are you expecting from the players for this one? Just a final thought.
Just 100% commitment, like we have shown in the last two games. The game against who was it we played in League Cup? That was
League Cup was Liverpool, right? At the final.
Oh, sorry, FA Cup. Yeah, so I forget the name now.
Yeah.
So that was just the same day. Day before, Roman had announced. There was some statement that came in, and all that happened. So there was a lot of noise, and then now we played the game after Roman Abramovich announced a sale. We played a game, and now we played a game after sanctions. So like Tuchel said, as long as we have shirts and a bus full of fuel, we'll be there and we'll compete. So that's what I want to see from the fans, from the players. Frankly, I don't even really know right now who we are playing.
You're playing Newcastle. It's a sliding doors moment. You're playing Newcastle. Imagine it be a sliding doors moment, right? One, the originator of the overpaying goes away.
But at least it's a winnable game.
Yeah.
So it's a winnable game regardless of the situation. We do have the same players. Those players haven't left us yet. They might, and I wouldn't blame them, because ultimately it's business. If tomorrow your company, you get news that your company is going to shut down any moment, then you'd start looking for a job, and that's same for players. So if they leave us, I'm not going to blame them. If sponsors are leaving us, I mean, it's a business. For them, it's pure money. I mean, at least footballers pretend to have some sort of connection with fans and everything. Sponsors don't even do that. So for them, it's just plain business. So, but yeah, I'm not going to blame any player for leaving us, but
let's hope it doesn't come to that. And so there's still time till May before we have to worry about that. So there's no time. I just want to make a note here as well. Somebody might be saying that, oh, well, there's a supposed points deduction that might happen if Chelsea go to administration. We're not going to talk about that, because quite frankly, we were here with City as well. Like City are going to get a points deduction. They're going to get banned for 2 years. They're going to go play League Two. Doesn't happen like that. It won't happen to Chelsea. Don't worry about it. They'll find a way to sell it. They'll find a way to do something. Chelsea won't be in that trouble. So I haven't even brought it up because, don't give me hope as a United fan, as I say, don't give me hope about anything. So we'll leave that aside.
At this point, I wouldn't put it past us, right? The way things are going, our luck right now, we might as well get a point deduction and get sent down to championship. But you
won't get sent down to championship. That won't happen. That's too outlandish. But a points deduction, it's still a long time. It's still May. There's still a lot of time. There's still 2 months. It's more than enough time to kind of think of a takeover that might come through. So
but Chelsea are not responsible for that. UK government is.
In
Our
the
club was
rules,
going
yeah.
to be sold, we would have been fine. We would no longer have been a Russian asset, right? I mean, you have sanctioned a guy to whom the sanction barely puts a dent, but you have just caused your own citizens to lose jobs. You have caused pain for your own citizens. So this is a very bad political decision. It's this decision doesn't help anyone in Ukraine. Right? The war did not stop because Roman Abramovich got sanctioned. 5, 10, 15 other oligarchs got sanctioned before. The war did not stop. Putin got sanctioned himself. His foreign ministers got sanctioned himself. The war did not stop, and war is not going to stop tomorrow until Putin gets what he wants, and he's going to get what he wants. Ukraine is already now conceding about and made a statement that they don't want to join NATO, which was what Putin was asking for to begin with, that do not join NATO. So they made those concessions. Putin will get what they want. The only ones who will lose are people of Ukraine, people of Russia, and
Chelsea.
people like us who got involved into this without, it wasn't Roman Abramovich's war. It definitely, most certainly wasn't a war caused by Chelsea. Chelsea weren't responsible for the tea lady wasn't responsible for this. The groundsman wasn't responsible for this war, but they are the ones who got affected. So it's in this PR propaganda world of making yourself look good on Twitter and making yourself good look on news channels. I think governments need to understand that don't take hollow actions. Don't fire bombs. We had I learned a new thing about cluster bombs that could in this war, that a bomb which fires so many bombs around and it causes a mass destruction. So this is what they have done. Instead of going to the point, they have fired a bazooka over something which has caused a mass destruction and hasn't even hit the target. So the collateral damage, there is only collateral damage because of this decision that they have made. Collateral damage is the only damage that has happened.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to defend any sanctions here, but the logic behind it, whether it achieves its objective or not, the logic really is that to try to isolate hopefully isolate Russian businessmen who can then put pressure on Putin to kind of withdraw. But anyway, that is a strategic and political discussion. You can have that on, we'll create a new channel for that, and then we'll kind of talk about it there, maybe not. I mean, it is a sad situation everywhere around the world, and for everyone, for everyone involved, it is a sad situation. And unfortunately, we just have to wait and watch, and we have to see what happens, and we hope that the damage won't be too much for Ukraine, for Russian people, as well as for for British citizens and for fans of Chelsea FC. Obviously, that's the most important thing right now. But thank you, Nishikant. Thank you for joining me on the show. It is always a pleasure to listen to you and to get your views on that. It's very passionate.
Thanks for having me.
Towards the end there, I guess, like I'm building it up. Like I've been holding it back. Now I'm gonna say it all here. So thank you so much for that. If you did enjoy the show, let us know what you think about the whole situation on Chelsea. Do you think do you think there needs to be a bit of a perspective on what's happening, from everyone around the government as to why, as to what's going on? Does there need to be a little more perspective about things and about the people that is actually affecting with these sanctions? Or do you think that what they're doing right now is totally justified? Let us know definitely in the conversation. We're always here to hear from you guys. We always love to hear from you guys. And do remember to like, to comment, to also subscribe to the channel. If you're new, subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate your support, and we want to keep growing this channel, so we really appreciate that. And when you do subscribe, you get such content as well, because then people are more excited to come on the show as well. But thank you so much. Take care. Have a good day or night, whatever time you're watching this, and we'll be back again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.